Yo, seen a video or a clip from a guy called Rupert Sheldrake, Dr Rupert Sheldrake. He's a scientist, author, sort of, I don't know, I think he must be about 70 to 80 now. He's getting on. He's been around for years. But I first came across him when I was waking up, when I was in London, because he was going on a TED talk against Richard Dawkins, who was going on about the God delusion. Dawkins is just a fucking idiot, by the way. And he counteracted Richard Dawkins and did a book called The Science Delusion. And bearing in mind, he's a doctor and a scientist. I can't remember what he's scientist exactly fully in, but basically, yeah, he knows his shit. And he's come up with some various theories in the world. So yeah, he come up with this book called The Science Delusion. I've not read it, but I come across his TED talk about it, and he sort of knew Terence McKenna, the famous. He met him before he died, and he went out to see him and that. So he knew Terence McKenna, the famous psychedelic dude. So he was very open-minded as scientist goes. He was a fairly awakened scientist. And sort of aware of the spiritual stuff. And yeah, I came across him first, and he was doing this. I think he's done this thing called the telephone telepathy. That was it. Telephone telepathy. So he did a scientific study on telephone telepathy, which is like when I started realizing psychics and psychic synchronicities is when you go ring someone and they're ringing you, or they give you a text as you ring them. Do you know what I mean? And he did a study on this and proved, like with people that knew each other, and proved that there was a phenomenon. Of course, if you listen to mainstream science, this actually doesn't exist and it's all a load of rubbish. But if you listen to awakened people and scientists, then obviously we all know this is true and it's going on. We're all psychic. I have psychic experiences every single day. I always have done, but obviously I only realised I was having them when I went through my awakening, because the world told me that wasn't actually happening. But of course, deep down, I always knew it was. So anyway, Rupert Sheldrake, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. And so I just come across a bit of him. I saw him do a talk in Brighton, actually, and he's a bit stale at times, but he's old, you know what I mean? He's 80 odd or something, so he's a bit stuck in his ways at times. But seriously, for a scientist guy, he's awakened to stuff. And I just saw this clip, and he's comparing quantum stuff with the Book of Genesis. So he, as I see science and spirituality, is not a. They go together. They're just seen from different perspectives. Anyway, so I just watched this really good little clip, and I'll post the YouTube video to it on this so you can look at it. But it's brilliant. So there's a few quotes I've written down, so I just got to read them because I wouldn't remember them otherwise. He's talking about quantum. He's talking about light and dark. And you can't have light without dark. And this is the duality of life that we live in, polarity. And then he says he's talking about the quantum theory and how the quantum theory is in waves. Now, this is quantum physics. I understand quantum physics. It talks about the double slit experiment, which I understand, which made me realise that our thoughts control our reality. So the observer controls the atoms. So that's something that you have to sort of ponder on for quite a while. If you don't understand that, I did that as another video. But this is a quantum theory, quantum physics, double slit experiment. But he's talking about waves. Light goes in waves. And he says peaks and troughs, ups and downs. So he says that when the dark bits coincide with the light bits, they neutralize each other. So when the dark and the light coincide, they neutralize each other. In other words, there it just is. Now, this is exactly what yin yang is. Yin yang, dark and light. Within dark, there is light. Within light, there is dark. And when you hit the middle path, this is Taoism, the middle path or the way, you neutralize them. There just is. Now, some other quotes that he says on here, connecting that, just reading is, light by its very nature has darkness within it. Yin yang. And then it's like here, and he doesn't mention like Taoism or yin yang yet, but I'm sure he's aware of it, but he didn't talk about it there. He connected it with the book of Genesis. But then it says here, often equaled with good and evil, but actually it's a natural polarity. And this is what it is. This is the way, the natural, this is the balance. And when you hit the way, there is no dark or light, there just is. This is, yeah, like, I mean, I just seen this and it just blew my mind, because it's like, this is the Taoism, this is what they talk about, the way, when you get that balance, there just is. Now, this is the point with the darkness, and this is where Carl Jung talks about the shadow self, and if you don't integrate the shadow, then it becomes problematic in your life, because we all have darkness and light within us. We're both yin and yang, and we have to integrate that. We have to balance that and find the way where the light and dark neutralizes each other. So yeah, I just saw this, like, and I just was like, yeah, like brilliant, like totally perfect what's going on. So in the bigger path of what's going on, dark and light, there is always going to be dark and light, but they have to neutralize it in nature, and we have to neutralize it in this reality, and they have to neutralize each other. And we've been living in a reality where the dark's been overpowering the light. There's always going to be death, there's always going to be a certain amount of suffering, even though suffering is actually illusion, but there is always going to be good and bad. But this is the polarity. But when we get the middle way, there just is. The light and the dark neutralizing each other. Yin yang, the way, Taoism. Ancient Chinese philosophy. Anyway, I thought I'd just drop that. Peace.